All right, let's do that again. First off, thank you so much, guys, for taking time out of your weekends where you're supposed to rest and, take time for yourselves to attend this workshop. I really do appreciate it. And this is going to be the final workshop of our 4-part installment. And just a quick recap. In the first workshop, we talked about 7 common mistakes that people make when learning Cantonese. In the second workshop, we were going through Cantonese particles, which is something that's very frequently requested. It's because it's really hard to learn by yourself, right? In the last workshop, we went through a live Cantonese lesson that I prepared. It's kind of like a sample of what Cantillon Academy has to offer. And in this final workshop, I want to talk a little bit about Cantonese level, really language level, because there seems to be some sort of a misalignment when it comes to level, and I kind of want to take this opportunity to sort that out. So, all right, well, without further ado, let's get started, excuse me. So, as you guys can see, I've actually booked a 1.5-hour meeting. I'm not sure if it's going to last that long, but just in case, it could flow to 90 minutes. So we're going to take a 5-minute break in between at the 40-minute mark. So yeah, that's how today will go. So let's see, just a quick start to this. So why am I doing this webinar workshop, I guess? So originally this was supposed to just be 3 workshops and that's it. And then as I was doing Cantillon Academy, as I was launching it, I received a lot of different emails from readers and from people who are interested. And one of the major questions that I've received is, I'm interested, but I'm not sure if my level is enough to handle material at this level. And so I kind of wanted to answer these people in bulk because it seems kind of to be a huge concern. So today I'm not going to talk too much theory. I'm going to do a little bit of that, but this is going to be a very interactive workshop. Hopefully you guys will be available to participate. We also don't have a lot of people today, so you guys get the benefit of having a small group here. Right, so before we get started, a quick heads up. If you guys don't already know, Cantillon Academy has launched, and it is a program that I've designed and conceived for people who are not at a beginner's level. And just a quick preview of it, if you haven't already seen what it's all about. Getting this out of the way, at a glance, what exactly is Cantillon Academy? It is 4 lessons a month, not 4 minutes a lesson, 4 lessons a month. And in each lesson, there's these components here, 10 minutes of Cantonese audio on the topic, that it's very likely to come up in our everyday lives. There are bilingual English and Cantonese transcripts along with a separate transcript with Yut Ping on top. So you can use it, one for understanding and one for pronunciation. There are also Q&A exercises with answers, asking questions about what the text is about, and translation exercises, not unlike the ones that we're going to be doing today. And there's going to be a vocabulary list. And for now, we're gonna, so this is kind of like a preview of Cantillon Academy, if you guys are interested. So we have a recording. Those will be hosted on SoundCloud. There's also a transcript. As you can see, this is really unique, by the way, guys. Some people have actually asked me as well, how exactly did you get the Yut Ping above each character? What software did you use? The answer is I painstakingly wrote my own because I couldn't find any. So there we go. Drastic measures to do that. We have a question. I wrote it in JavaScript. It was actually in Google Scripts. I wrote it as a Google Docs extension. So the API, by the way, for those who are a little bit more technologically oriented, was not very easy to work with. I mean, the API was easy to work with, but the Google Apps Script, the environment, is not very easy to work with. So anyway, so this is the Yut Ping transcript. This is the bilingual transcript. So we have paragraphs of Chinese with English at the bottom. And then we have Q&A questions, just a little bit of Chinese reading, and then you can answer questions, hopefully with an opportunity to use the words that you've learned during this lesson. There are also translation exercises. So they start off with English sentences, highlighting some important words in the lesson, and then you can try and translate them. And all of these come with answers afterwards, of course. And then afterwards, there's part number 5, which is vocabulary. And as usual, you'll expect a standard vocabulary list for a lesson like this, right? And for a very limited period of time, there are bonuses that come with the program. So there's a private Slack channel. People have been joining in already. And so you can ask questions whenever you have them. You can reach out to me directly. There are also monthly workshops like this. We're probably going to be doing something a little bit more interesting, but even not to say that this isn't interesting, but perhaps this is more to answer the question or the theme of the webinar, which is level of difficulty. And they're also Quizlet decks, so you don't actually have to make them yourself, because I know it's a hassle, typing words and doing all that. So that is there. So we have all of these tools available, and it will close tomorrow on the 30th of September. So if you guys are thinking of joining, so this would be an opportunity to jump in. Anyway, so this is the link. I'm going to be just kind of adding this in the chat if anyone's interested in looking at it. Halfway through, I hope I don't make any typos. Sometimes I just can't type during weekends when I'm lazy. All right, so that is that. Small bit of promotion on my part. Guilty as charged. All right, so back to the content and today's lesson, workshop. Sorry, I keep on going into teacher mode. So why exactly are we doing this? I feel that the reason we're doing this is because there's a misalignment, I should say a gross misalignment, in terms of people's understanding of level. And I'm talking about language level, and I'm also talking about difficulty level. And what I've realized that through my interactions with readers and students in the past, that my understanding of difficulty is also very different than a lot of people's understanding. So I just wanted to do a bit of a breakdown of how I would understand a language, and to use that as a measure to gauge what your current level of language is in your target language, whatever that may be, right? And so let's see. Okay. With that said, let's get started. So what exactly is difficulty? So to kind of like start this off with, I want to get some input from you guys. If you can, I'd like for you guys to rate the sentence on a difficulty scale of 1 to 10. So I'm just read this out loud for people who can't see. I think you guys should be able to see it, right? But anyway, so just this English sentence. So for me, generally speaking, I live right in the middle of the city center. So there's actually a lot of supermarkets in the area off the top of my head, and I can count at least 6 to 7 supermarkets. How would you rate the difficulty of that sentence in terms of what you guys use on an everyday basis from a scale of 1 to 10? Volunteers, you guys want to type it in the chat quickly? So I guess an intermediate. Okay, thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so maybe a 5 or a 6. Would that be accurate? Anyone else? No one wants to volunteer a number? I thought we'd love numbers. Okay, cool. So James says 5. Andrew says 6. Anyone else? Probably a 2. Again, 10 is difficult and 1 is easy, just to get the scale straight. So we have a 2 here. It's a deviation. Anyone else? A 9. This, as an English speaker, you'd think this is a 9. It's interesting. Okay. All right, so we kind of have different ideas of difficulty, as we can see already. Okay, so let's try and do another one. this in terms of translating. Oh, no. Not thinking about translating this into Cantonese. I'm just thinking about rate the sentence as an English speaker. How difficult do you think this sentence is in terms of how you would say it, in terms of listening to it? A 1. Wow, that's interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, so what about this one? Every time I go to the supermarket, no matter how late it gets or how early it gets. Oh, actually, no, Andrew. I just literally mean in terms of if you were to say this sentence in your native language, be it English or another language, how would you rate the difficulty of that sentence? And so, what about this one? Every time I go to the supermarket, no matter how late it gets or how early it gets, there may be a fewer people in the morning because everyone's at work, right? But there'll definitely be a lot of people buying stuff, lining up to pay the register. So, I mean, there are definitely pros that come with convenience, and there are also cons. It depends on how you look at it, whether you like crowds or not. Yep, for yourself personally, it's a very subjective thing. So, yeah, throw a number out there. What about this one? From a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate that sentence? It's a 2. All right. Random sentences that come from another 1. Wow. Very interesting. So I'm actually curious then, what would you guys consider to be like maybe, I don't know, like an 8 or above? Shakespeare? Reading the Constitution? Common Sense by Thomas Paine? Old English. Do people actually read Old English nowadays? I wouldn't know how to read Old English. That's like reading classical Chinese. Academic papers are fairly easy to read, actually, don't you think? Because the language is fairly straightforward. It's just technical. Like if I were to compare, for example, like an academic paper to a novel is definitely way more difficult to read. That's how I would rate. So anyway, I think that from a native level kind of perspective, a sentence like this, people feel is fairly easy. It's just like off the top of my head, no, it's kind of like the back of my hand. I can say something like this very easily, right? And of course, this is all subjective, right? This is there's no right or wrong answer to this. Okay, so why are we doing this? Why did I ask you guys to do this rating? So I wanted to kind of understand how you came to the conclusion that this particular sentence or that paragraph I showed you guys, it was, you rated it the way you did. Was it to do with the vocabulary that you gave it that rating? I mean, if there were words in it that you didn't know, would you give it a higher difficulty rating? And was it to do with maybe structures or grammar? If there were things that were convoluted in terms of structure, there are a lot of little phrases that you stuff in there. If there are a lot of relative clauses that had many levels of indirection, would you increase that level of difficulty? Was it to do with perhaps linking words? For example, if you had a lot of linking words that showed the relationship, there were contrasts, there were conditionals, would it make a sentence harder? I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at is what really determines difficulty. And the fact of the matter is that all of the factors that I just talked about the 3 things: the linking word, structures, vocabulary, and all that kind of good stuff. For myself, I'd like to share with you guys what I think. It always reminds me of a quote by Henry Ford, which is, it's particularly hard if you divide it into small jobs. And obviously, Henry Ford was talking about breaking the assembly line into parts. But I feel this is equally applicable to languages. The fact of the matter is that if you take a short sentence, a long sentence, a paragraph of text, or 10 pages of text, a novel, at the end of the day, you can all break them down into individual sentences and then into individual words. And if you break them down enough, you'll be able to work your way around them and reduce that difficulty, because a lot of that difficulty is perceived. It isn't actually real difficulty. It just seems difficult because maybe there's a lot of it. And so in my opinion, here's my take on it. A lot of the things that look difficult when it comes to language learning aren't really that difficult. But it's often the things that, on the other hand, the things that don't look that difficult, that we don't really pay attention to even, that are actually the most difficult. To me, when learning a language, the most difficult thing, for example, aren't actually the sentences, for example, that we just saw. If we were to translate all of them into Cantonese or in a different language or whatever, those wouldn't actually be too difficult, or if you were understanding them, because you could always break them down. In other words, it's within your scope of learning, it's within your scope of control. What's difficult to me would be things like things that come easily to native speakers, but that don't to foreign language speakers. And there are always tons of these in different languages. For example, in Cantonese, there are particles. That's really difficult, aren't they? Because you can't, you have to feel them. They're not very concrete. They're very abstract. And there's no way that you can, there's no construct or model that you can use to say, oh, you know, I could apply this rule here, so you can use this construct here, or you can use this construct there. You can use this particle here. It doesn't really work like that. It's kind of like training up a feel, developing a good sense for the language. If you guys have studied the European languages, you know, for example, that French, German, Spanish, these languages come with crazy conjugation tables. And let's see. Oh, okay. Andrew said, the Canadian expression is like the Cantonese particle. Yeah, probably. And I would argue that perhaps Cantonese has a wider range of particles that makes it very rich, but I guess you can find certain equivalents in English and other languages. And so, for example, back to European languages, you have things like pronominal verbs. I'm not sure if you guys know. So, for example, things like, let's see, very simply. This, if you look up in the dictionary, is completely different than the root verb aller in French, which means to go. And it's stuff like, it's these little words that make it very difficult for non-natives to grasp. You really have to know the specific situation in order to be able to use them. Or take the Asian languages, for example. With Japanese or with Korean, you really have to, one of the most difficult things would be particles. Some different particles from Cantonese, and but they're still very difficult to grasp, because if you ask a native speaker, would you use wa or ga in Japanese, they'd be able to tell you, now, this feels right to me, but they wouldn't be able to tell you why. So that to me is difficult. In contrast to that, now there are a lot more examples of that, but you know, that's just one. In contrast to that, right, these kinds of difficulties aren't the types of difficulties I would think are difficult. For example, if you see a lot of stuff, if you see a huge chunk of text, or if you listen to a huge chunk of an audio recording, does that truly make it difficult? I'd argue not. I mean, think about it, right? If we had something like this, and if we multiplied that, if you had to do something like this, does that actually make doing this basic arithmetic difficult? It doesn't, does it? You're literally doing the same thing over and over again. Doing it one time, 10 times, 100 times, 10,000 times, it doesn't make a difference. It'll take you a bit more time, obviously, but the level of difficulty, I'd argue, isn't any different. Well, in the same way for language learning, whether you're looking at a single word, or you're looking at a sentence, you're looking at a paragraph, a page of multiple paragraphs, many pages of paragraphs, does it really make a difference in terms of its difficulty? Once again, I'd argue not. The second thing, whether we have something like this, for example, or we have something like this, does it really make it more difficult? I mean, the difficulty of the sentences, they're about the same. It's just more of them. right? So my kind of message here is when you see a lot of stuff, don't get afraid of it. Don't be intimidated by it, because a lot, a paragraph is just made up of individual sentences. If you break them down, they'll make a lot of sense. What about speed? Does that actually contribute to difficulty? And the faster someone speaks, does it make what they say at the core of it more difficult? To me, once again, speed isn't the sort of thing that contributes to difficulty, because at the core of it, what someone says doesn't change. It's just a part of how they say it, right? So, for example, if I said this sentence slowly, 我雖然喺香港住咗好多年，但係點樣講我都適應唔到呢度嘅生活同埋社會氛圍。Or if I said it at normal speed, 我雖然喺香港住咗好多年，但係點樣講我都適應唔到呢度嘅生活同埋社會氛圍。Does it really make what I say different? It doesn't, does it? It's just speed, and it's just something that we have to get used to. So I feel we have to isolate the factors that surround difficulty, that surround content, from understanding what the content is. That's the core of the difficulty. And a lot of times, again, quoting Henry Ford, if you can break down stuff into the individual components, whatever those components may be, into vocabulary, for example, and structures, I feel that a lot of the difficulty can be reduced. Okay, so up to this point, this is all theory, and so in the next segment of this workshop, I'd like to change this up a little bit and talk in more concrete terms. Okay, so let's see. I have like a printout of all the slides and all that, so I'm just flipping through crazily. You can see me. So once again, so we've skipped that part. Whether we say something at a third of the speed or at full speed, again, the content of what you have to say does not change. Okay. And there's also another kind of difficulty I'd like to talk about. What about information? Does that make it difficult? To me, it really doesn't either. It's just more information. I mean, look at the sentence evolve from there's a cat under the tree, there's an old ginger cat napping under the oak tree. As I was walking by, I noticed an old ginger cat napping under the oak tree. Does it make it more difficult to understand it? Well, sure, there are a couple more words and the structure is a little bit fancier, but it doesn't make it more difficult to understand. At the end of the day, it's information about there's a cat, there's a tree, and there's a person, and the person walks by. More information does not equate difficulty. So I hope that through these small examples, even abstract as these may be, that I can kind of impress upon you guys that difficulty does not come from content. True difficulty comes from things that are difficult to reason with, difficult to grasp, and in terms of language, right? And so let's, without further ado, I mean, again, this is all in abstract terms. I hope I didn't sound too weird talking about this in such abstract terms. So in the next segment, let's have a look at some examples. And so tying this back to the whole theme of this workshop, let's look at structural difficulty and see how we can break down difficulty into bits. Just kind of like switch back into Cantonese. So today, the interactive part of this workshop will be, I'm going to be presenting you guys with 30 sentences. So you guys can try to translate them, and I'll run through these translations with them. 30 translations. How many of them are you able to translate? That will be the main bulk of this workshop. Okay. So before we get started, there's kind of like a pre-challenge. Can you guys read this sentence out loud in Yuping? Like, not now, but are you capable of doing that? We all on the same page? We're all kind of like past the pronunciation level? Do I see a couple of yeses? As a bonus point, can anyone tell me what that means, the sentence? Any brave volunteers? No, that's fine, just as well. So here, for example, we have 朝頭早 I made a mistake. 起身之後最好飲一杯水，如果唔係會好乾，會口乾。Can anyone tell me what that means? Are we feeling shy, or are there no brave volunteers here? Or no worries. So here we have in the morning, 朝頭早起身 when I wake up, that should be a 2. 之後 afterwards. It's very close, Andrew. That's right. 最好飲一杯水. It's best to 最好 drink a glass of water. 如果唔係 if not or else 會口乾 or 會好乾. So 口乾 means like your mouth will be dry. So or not, your mouth will be dry. Very trivial sentence. Okay, moving on. Challenge number 1. I'm going to read a sentence out loud, and I want to challenge you guys to write down what I say in Yupeng. I hope that you guys use Yupeng. You can feel free to write in Yale if that's more, if you use that system to learn. So, you guys ready? Okay, I'm going to start. 我通常星期六朝頭早。我通常星期六朝頭早。Nobody's interested in dictation. 我通常星期六朝頭早會去公園散下步。出面吸下啲新鮮空氣，令到自己輕鬆啲。Remember, you guys, this is a workshop where the more you participate, the more you get out of it. All right, I see we have no volunteers. That's fine. So, 我通常公園散下步，面吸下啲新鮮空氣，令到自己輕鬆啲。Okay. You know, it's interesting. So Bell says, I never read or wrote it. I just spoke Cantonese. I would say that if you don't read or write it, it's still kind of helpful to learn Yupeng, because if there are words you don't know, at the very least, you have some sort of romanization scheme to look up the word in the dictionary. Whereas if you don't know how to represent it, then I'd argue that if you listen and you hear a word you don't understand, can't really check it up, or you could probably repeat it and ask someone else. But the Yupeng and the romanization really helps you solidify your understanding of what that word is. So yeah, I'd argue it helps you with understanding pronunciation of the language. All right, so translation drills. Now this should be fairly doable for everyone, I think. Challenge number 2. Can you guys translate this sentence into Cantonese? He is a good doctor. Be fairly trivial. Feel free to write in Cantonese or in Yupeng or your invented romanization scheme if you're interested. I'm going to put a clock, let's just say 1 minute, and see what answers come in. He is a good doctor. Do you guys know how to say doctor in Cantonese? Are we thinking this is like too easy? Oh, we have a first answer. Andrew again. Oh, you're really on fire today. So 佢係好好醫生. Anyone else? 佢係個好醫生. Yeah, sure. No, Yale, you'd ping whatever room. You can do your own if you feel more comfortable that way. Ho does mean very good. Yeah. All right, so that's 1 minute. So Andrew, I would probably say ho. I would probably not use it that way. I'd probably say something like 佢係一個好醫生. Don't forget the classifiers. We always add a classifier in front of nouns. So when you have a thing, for example, a bottle of water, you want to say bottle there, or a cup. You have to add one classifier cup, 一個杯, 一樽水 for a bottle of water, 一個杯 for one cup. Right? So there we go. That's right. And Natalie says 佢係個好醫生. Yep, that works perfectly fine. Classify and measure words, they go by many names, definitely. Yep. All right, so moving on. So number 2, how would you say that in Cantonese? Can you bring my laptop here? A fairly basic sentence. Well, I'm going to put 1 minute on the clock. Can you bring my laptop here? Does everyone know how to say laptop? I want to get vocabulary out of the way. This is not the point of the exercise. Yeah, that's right. That is right. That's actually even better. I was just thinking 電腦, which is, well, computer. 手提 is hand carry, 電腦, computer, so laptop. It's awesome. Nice one, James. And yay, you wrote in characters. That's awesome. Do you have any volunteer translations for this? All right, so from Andrew, 嚟我嘅電腦啦. I think, are you saying to bring, which is lead? I'm trying to think of a character to associate with that. I can't think of a character that associates with lie for lead. That's actually pretty close to what I would say. For example, I'd probably say lie. I don't think lie is the word either. Lead, I would say 帶. Is that right? 帶. There we go. 你帶我嘅電腦啦. I would understand that. I think grammatically that's perfectly fine as well. What I would say would be 你可唔可以攞我部電腦過嚟呢? So can you or not 攞 to bring 我部電腦過嚟, my computer here, 過嚟 is to come here. No worries. This isn't a test or anything. And so the measure word for computer is 部, so don't forget that. And I've always said to students, if you don't know the specific measure word for an object, you want to substitute go. I mean, it's better to have the generic go measure word than it is to not have a measure word at all, because that's just part of Chinese grammar. Okay. All right, so continuing. Number 3, the book isn't mine. The book isn't mine. How would you translate that in Cantonese? 1 minute on the clock. And oh, sorry, Natalie asks, can I ask the difference between go and ge? I'm assuming those are both third tones. So go is this, and ge, I think, is this. Go is the generic classifier or measure word, whereas ge is kind of like apostrophe S in English. So, for example, my book, you can say 我嘅書, but a better way to say it is 我本書. You want to substitute the 嘅 with a classifier. Let's see. Or my family, 我嘅屋企人, right? So, Tom's bag, Tom 嘅袋. Does that make sense, Natalie? Hopefully that wasn't too long-winded. Let's see. James asks, is go part of the particle? No, it's not. 過嚟, 攞過嚟means to bring here. Hope that helps a bit, James. The classifier, there's no formality, there's no notion of formality in Cantonese with regards to measure words. Go is just like a generic classifier for things you don't know, because every single thing, pretty much object, has a classifier, and if you don't know what classifier goes with that word, then you just use go. Right. So what about this fourth sentence? This book isn't mine, it's hers. Yeah, no worries, Natalie. So Andrew says, 呢個書唔係佢嘅，佢係呢個書. So the first part of the sentence is, I would say that's a good effort. That's almost entirely right. And 佢嘅呢個書, you can actually shorten it. You can simply say, the correct measure word is 本. So 呢本書唔係我嘅. Oh, James has the correct answer. That's exactly right. 呢本書唔係我嘅，係佢嘅. This book is not mine. It is his. Right. You don't have to extend that any further, Andrew. 呢本書唔係我嘅，係佢嘅. Right. So that's that. Moving on. Number 5. I'm going to ramp up the level of difficulty here a little bit. The airport here is really old. So first off, any words that we don't know. Airport is 機場, and old is 舊. How would you translate that sentence in Cantonese? The airport here is really old. Oh, we have an answer from Andrew. Let's see. Wow, you're really on fire today, aren't you? So 呢度機場係好老. It's very close, very, very close. So let's see. When we describe adjectives, we don't add 係 in front of the adjective. We simply add 好. That's one of the, I think, more common errors that people make. For example, if I have to say, this is new, 呢個好新, you wouldn't say 呢個係新. So we do not ever translate directly is into Cantonese. That makes sense. So 呢度機場好老一 that makes sense. Let's see an answer from Natalie. 呢個機場好舊. Yep, that makes sense as well. Awesome, awesome. It says 1 minute on the clock. 呢度嘅機場真係好舊. That's what I put here. So I just added 真係 to translate really, if you wanted to add a little bit of an extent to it. All right? Just keep the questions coming, guys. If you have anything, just feel free to stop me anytime and I'll answer the questions. All right, moving on. Number 6. How to translate this? There's a lot of French people living in this area. I'm not sure why. So let's see. French people. If you guys don't know already how to say that in Cantonese, is 法國. And then area is. How would you translate that into Cantonese? Again, 1 minute on the clock. Cool, awesome, awesome. Another answer from Andrew. Always fastest, huh? 呢度好多 it should be 法國人. 我唔覺得 would mean I don't feel or I don't think. If you want to say I'm not sure why, you probably say something like 我唔知點解. That's a good try. I think that's a really good try. Let's see. And we have something from James. 呢度係我喺呢度有啲好多法國人. I think I would probably phrase it like 喺or simply 呢度有好多法國人. 不過唔知點解. Awesome. That's exactly right. We have that from Natalie. 我唔知點解呢個區有咁多法國人住. Oh yeah, that's great. That's a really good way of phrasing it as well. Great. Awesome, awesome. All right, so we're almost at the half-minute mark. I think we're just gonna take a quick break, maybe reconvene in 3 minutes, let's say, to get some water or something like that. Right, so let's continue at 47 past then. See you guys in a bit. All right, so we're back. Some questions that flew in during the break time. So let's see, let me kind of repeat. Andrew says he wants to 我想一杯水. Remember, we want to add 要 in between. We can't translate direct. When you say you want something, especially, for example, in the restaurant, you want to say 我想要, I don't know, set A, set B, or something like that. Natalie asks difference between ma and le. So ma is used in writing when you want to ask yes/no questions. You attach that to the end of your question. Le I use in questions just to soften the tone. Really, they're not direct equivalents, but you won't see le as much in writing, but you'll use le all the time when speaking. James asks, what method do you use to write characters on the computer? So to be quite frank, I cheat a little bit. I actually use Mandarin Pinyin to input characters when I'm on the desktop, and when I'm online, I use Yutping from Google Input. There's really not a good solution so far, unfortunately. And sometimes I use like handwriting. I like handwriting. Yeah, no worries, Natalie. It's good. So, 可唔可以 Like even in writing, I'd probably use le here. Yeah. Like 你可唔可以攞杯水俾我呢？ Or you can simply do without adding anything on. So you can say something like 你可唔可以俾杯水我? And just raise your tone at the end of the question, like you do in English. Can you give me a glass of water? Let's see, rhyme.im. I might check that out after the workshop. Thank you for sharing, Andrew. No worries, Natalie. I'm glad that helped. All right, so let's continue with our little challenge blitz. So is she awake yet? How would you guys translate that into Cantonese? Oh, we have something from Jado. That was like flying. Like in 3 seconds, you typed an answer. 佢起咗身未啊? Yeah, that works. Anyone else? Any other words you might want to use? You know, if you guys don't know a word, feel free to look it up in the dictionary. This is just like a very casual session, but you know, it's hopefully it gives you a bit of a Cantonese workout. Yeah, that's perfect as well, Andrew. Awesome. Anyone else? Well, that's pretty much how you all the ways you can say it. So I would probably say something like 佢起咗身未呢? Pretty much the same as what you guys have. Yep. So 起身 is to wake up. Awesome. So you probably don't need any help from me for that. Number 8. Are they having a meeting in the conference room now? And if you guys don't know any words, remember you can always look them up in the dictionary. Imagine you're translating this in real time in real life, right? But with the help of a dictionary. Are they having a meeting in the conference room now? Slightly more complex. A bit of help, maybe? Have a meeting is to 開會. Conference room is 會議室. Let's see. So we have something from Andrew. 佢哋而家會喺 something. Okay. There's a structure. That's actually exactly right. What I'm trying to point at with these exercises is that structure is important. If you know the structure, it's just a matter of filling in the vocab words. So any more tries here? Should I reveal the answer? All right, I guess it's time to reveal. So this is why I put down here. 佢哋而家係唔係喺會議室開緊會? So they now, yes or no? So this is a yes or no question, right? In conference room, 開緊會. 開會 is to have a meeting. 開緊 is to be in the middle of a meeting, right? 佢哋 Right, so once again, 佢哋而家 are they now 係唔係喺會議室 in the conference room 開緊會 in the middle of a meeting? Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Any questions? I'm not seeing any, but if you guys do have them, just feel free to blast them out. Moving on, number 9. How would you say this in Cantonese? It's a quick vocab test. Say a ruler, a cup of wine, a pencil, a cat. Let's choose 1 or 2. If you don't know the rest, it's perfectly fine. How to say these 4 words in Cantonese? Again, dictionary is all available. You don't feel restricted to not use from using them. Any more volunteers? This is probably the cat equals to Mao. Yeah, that's right, Andrew. Awesome. Sorry. How would you say a cat though? Cat is literally just the Mao is just the word. How would you say a cat? Gan tag. For Natalie, that's right. Remember, but it's the second tone. Gan tag. And from Andrew, let's see. Yep. Mao. Yeah, that's right. Awesome. From James, 一杯紅酒. Well, that's red wine. It's even more specific, but yep, that's completely right. So what about the ruler? Does anyone know what the measure word for ruler is? 一支間尺, 一條間. Those are actually very close guesses. Okay, the correct one is 一把間尺. You can also use that for things like knives, a thing that's like a little bit long, and I don't really know how to describe it. 一把間尺, a ruler, 一把刀, a knife, and so on and so forth. And a pencil is 一支鉛筆. It's actually the same word as in Japanese, if everyone knows, or actually in Korean as well. Enpitsu and yonpil. Anyway, continuing. 一把間尺, 一杯酒, 一支鉛筆, and 一隻貓, 一隻貓. Pen. Yeah, that's right. Without the yun, exactly. Yun, if you guys can guess, it's actually lead, as in the chemical element. So a lead pen is a pencil. The Chinese isn't so hard after all. Moving on. Number 10. How would you say, oh, sorry. That's done. I repeated that. Number 11 then. I'm really satisfied with the fried noodles that we just had at the Chinese restaurant. Slightly longer sentence. How would you guys go about translating this? So we want to get vocab out of the way first. If you don't know any words, you always want to look them up in the dictionary. Satisfied, maybe. Everything else should be fairly straightforward. Do any brave volunteers? Slightly longer sentence. I actually can't see what you guys are doing. So in my head, I'm kind of like imagining a hustle bustle of looking words up in the dictionary and like furiously typing away the keyboard. So yeah, 中意. So I remember if you're trying to translate something, it's not about getting the translation exactly right, especially in a real-time situation. It's just about conveying your thoughts across. So 中意 is perfectly fine. No one? No tries for this one? Okay, so now we have them. Okay. So that took a little bit longer, right? Huh? So 我哋剛才食嘅嗰啲麵好滿意。剛才 is more of a written word. I would say am in Cantonese, but if you were writing that down, that would sound perfectly fine. Let's see. From Andrew, 我哋疏扶。let's see. 我哋食咗喺茶餐廳. So we have some word order issues that we need to fix, but that's a good try. When we're translating words, this is a very, very important concept. No worries, it's all good. Hopefully you guys can take some things away from this workshop as well. So whenever we say things in English that uses the word that, for example, the cat that is sitting on top of the sofa, the monkey that is hanging on the branches, that falls under the domain of relative clauses. So basically in Cantonese, the order is reversed. So instead of saying the branch, the monkey that's hanging on the branch, we say hanging on the branch, ge, monkey. Ge being the Cantonese word. So we have to flip the word order. So when you're translating a sentence a little bit longer like this, you have to pay attention to the word order. So this is how I would translate this. 我非常之滿意頭先我哋喺中國餐廳食嘅炒麵. Sorry, I missed a word. So let's break this down a little bit. I'm really satisfied with the fried noodles, right? So let's boil that down to the very like simplest essence of it. I'm satisfied with the fried noodles. 我滿意嗰碟炒麵. Remember the particle. So 我滿意嗰碟炒麵. So 碟 is a plateful. That's what we use for well, a plateful. 炒麵 is noodles. So if we want to add on complexity to that, I'm really satisfied with the fried noodles. 我非常之滿意嗰碟炒麵. So we just want to add 非常之滿意嗰碟炒麵. And so we want to add on more complexity. We want to say, I'm really satisfied with the fried noodles that we had at the restaurant. So 我非常之滿意, and then we want to deal with the noodles that we had at the Chinese restaurant. So remember what I just explained about relative clauses. We want to switch the order around. So 我哋喺餐廳食. So we at the restaurant eat 嘅炒麵, fried noodles. So fried noodles that we had at the Chinese restaurant becomes we at the restaurant had fried noodles. So the full sentence would become 我非常之滿意喺餐廳食嘅炒麵. So as you can see, this is a very important skill that I hope you guys will learn when moving forward. When you see a really complex or long sentence that you have to translate, it's very important to be able to break them down like this. So you say, I want to just get rid of all the fluff and translate the main meaning, and I want to add on the fluff bit by bit, and then you can add on the necessary structures. You do not try to do all of it at the same time, especially when you're learning, unless you have an excellent grasp of these structures. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. Moving on, number 12. I changed quickly and left for work. How would you say that in Cantonese? And 1 minute on the clock. Remember, words you don't know, you always want to look them up in the dictionary. I would say changed, to leave for work. So, okay, we have an answer from James. 我換咗衫好快就返工餐廳. Okay, no worries. 就返工, it's good. And so I'm going to fix that afterwards. Let's have a look at Andrew's sentence first. 我快啲換緊返工. Let's see. So 快啲 is faster or quicker, not quickly. 換緊 Gan, remember, is the ing equivalent, or to a certain extent. So to say, if you're saying 換緊衫, you're saying I'm in the middle of changing versus I changed. And then 返工. Cool. All right, so here's how I would translate it. I'd say 我好快咁換咗衫，跟住就出門返工. So what does that mean? Remember, when we have quickly ly words, this is kind of like going through English grammar as well. Ly words are adverbs. Adverbs, one way of learning of of translating adverbs into Cantonese is use 咁 after the main adjective that you're transforming into an adverb. So for example, 好快 is very quickly, very quick. 好快咁 would be very quickly. So the 咁 you can add in order to change it into an adverb. So I quickly changed 換咗. 咗 is the past tense particle. So you imply that is in a state of completion, and left for work. 跟住 is like when you use this in a sequence of actions, right? And so I do A and then I do B. So I do A, 跟住就 or 跟住就 you can actually use that as a whole. 出門 to go out, and 返工 to go to work. Okay, we have another sentence from Natalie. Let's see. 我快快脆脆換完衫就返工. Yeah, that works perfectly fine as well. It's pretty awesome. I like the succinct nature of that sentence. It's pretty awesome. All right, moving on. Number 13. He is still at the convenience store buying a drink. This time, can we do our more silent members of the audience today want to participate as well? Michael, Mabel, other folks on the list? He's still at the convenience store buying a drink. Yep, sure. I guess if you don't have a way to record things down, neither Yuping or Yale or characters, it can be hard, I think. Yeah. So I guess my suggestion would be it doesn't take a long time. Trust me. It takes 2-3 weeks tops to learn Yuping and Yale, and you're good to go. And it can really help with your ability to capture things that you're thinking. Let's see. So we have something from James. We have a sentence from James. Let's see. 佢仲喺便用嘅便利店 is a convenience store 賣緊一個 drink. Drink is actually very similar. It's just 飲嘢. 飲 is to drink. 嘢 is thing. A thing that you drink is a drink. Let's see. A couple of corrections here. The character for to be at somewhere is 喺, not 係. And then 買 is to buy, and 賣 is to sell. So be careful of this is the one that people get confused over very easily because they're so similar. It's just one tone of difference. Still is 仲. All right, so this is how I would translate this. 佢而家仲喺間便利店買飲嘢. He is still 佢 而家 now 仲 still 喺間 喺 is to be at 間 is the measure word for store 便利店 convenience store 買飲嘢 buy a drink. So he's still at the convenience store buying a drink. Okay. Moving on. Next, we have, we as a family are used to traveling abroad at least once a year. I do hope we have enough time for every one of these. I guess 90 minutes was a good idea after all. We as a family are used to traveling abroad at least once a year. Do we know traveling abroad? Family? I think family, we're familiar with the vocab. Are you getting like translation fatigue now? Or is it just like a longer sentence? No worries. Just follow along and yeah, hopefully, I mean, that's why we're doing this, right? So hopefully you can learn something, a thing or two from this. And see, so again, we have something, we have a sentence from James. 我哋同我屋企人習慣最少一年一次出國. Oh, that's really good. I like that. So you can, instead of saying 我哋同我屋企人, we and our family, you can just say 我哋, we. 習慣, we're used to at least once a year 出國. And I'd say 去旅行, because you're traveling. 出國 can mean many things. You can 出國, just going abroad can mean like you go, going abroad to work, to, I don't know, visit a relative or something, right? So 去旅行 would make that good, very befitting translation. So here's what I've written down. 我哋一家人習慣咗每年起碼 is another word for 至少 or 最少, which is at least, 去外國旅行一次 or 每年一年一次去外國旅行, which works as well. 一年一次 is 1 year, 1 time, or once a year. So that's a translation for that. All right, moving on, really wrapping up the difficulty here. They're not necessarily like long sentences. Long sentences are not, remember, volume does not equal the difficulty. Hopefully I got that message across to you guys, if nothing else. It's about breaking things down and incorporating the necessary structures to get a translation across. So he's been driving for over 10 years. Now, how would you say that? He has been driving for over 10 years now. It's almost interesting, something like this. It's these little sentences that come so naturally in our native languages that don't always map very well. Because one of the most important things, and one of the things that we mustn't do when translating, is transliterating. Transliterating means, if you aren't already aware, you guys probably are, to translate word for word is possibly the worst idea, because they usually don't work. Unless you're translating between very similar languages, and even then, it's a frowned upon practice. So, all right. Oh, so we have something. Sorry, I was a bit in my head. 佢10年揸車. That's a good start. I think we can turn this a little bit longer to make it a bit more precise. For Natalie, 佢有10年多嘅揸車經驗. Wow. Natalie's sentences are very, very written oriented. They sound like written Chinese. So it's actually interesting, because if you say written Chinese and Cantonese, it's perfectly fine as well. So, but I guess for you, maybe you might want to think about making it sound a little bit more casual, but it's all good. 佢而家揸車10年. over. Over, you can say 超過. We'll look in the translation afterwards. James, and sentence would start with year. Do you mean, I'm sorry, are you asking Mabel that should the sentence start with the word year? In that case, I don't think it should, but if you have something you want to try, you can feel free to share, and I'll mention 10 years first. Probably not. I'll show you what I've got here, and I'll share with you guys. No need to apologize, Natalie. It's all good. So I will translate this into as 佢揸車揸咗超過10年時間. So he has been driving. If you want to add information, this is a very common construct using 咗 as well. And this is very unique to Cantonese. So you would use the verb that you have, which is 揸車in this case, and then you would expand on it. 揸車 is a compound word. It's actually a verb plus a noun. 揸 is to drive. Car, 車 is car. So to drive a car is, to drive in Cantonese. You would break that up, and then you'd say 揸咗, and you add in all the information that you have. In this case, would be 超過, which is over. To answer your question, Andrew, 10年時間, 10 years of time. 佢揸車揸咗超過10年時間. Or you can say something a little bit closer to what Natalie said. 佢有10年嘅揸車經驗. So he has 10 years of 揸車經驗, driving experience. There's no right way or wrong way to translate it. It's just a matter of getting the information across, remember. So yeah, great job, guys. So once again, these are getting challenging. Hopefully you guys will stick in there. Number 16. Compared to yesterday, it's much warmer today. How would you say that in Cantonese? Hopefully we all know the words here. So compared to yesterday, it's much warmer today. That's a good question. So Mabel says, that's interesting. I remember time going first. I went to the store yesterday. Would be yesterday I went to the store. So in that case, yesterday is, let's see, how would I explain that? So we've got a group of words like yesterday, tomorrow, today. That's time-related words that indicate what time something takes place at. And you're right, in that case, the sentence order would shift to add time, put time all the way in the beginning. But in here, this isn't actually, the 10 years isn't actually indicating what time. It's indicating for how long. So it's not an umbrella. Time always goes in the beginning. It's the time that something happens in. So the time, manner, place, time of an event that goes in the beginning, but things like duration don't count, don't fit in that role. Anyway, so James says 比較尋日今日暖啲. It's a really good try. I would say something a little bit different for the compare to, but we'll see how we work with that. Let's see. Natalie says 今日熱過琴日好多. Yeah, that's like it's a super easy and direct translation, but it works, and it works really well. So I feel like one of the things that we should try to learn as well is to simplify. Sentences we don't always have to, say all of this. We just have to, again, get across the meaning. I think one of these days it might be worth doing like a translation workshop. So I can show you guys and share what I've learned from translating in different languages. And that, we always overcomplicate things so much. It's like, oh, I can't translate this word by word. I can't get this exact nuance in the target language. It's like, who cares? As long as you can get the basic meaning across, that's like a baseline, and then you can add on the complexity. Okay, sorry, excuse me for rambling. So, continuing, I would translate it like this: 比起琴日 and 尋日 is just pretty much the same thing. It's just a difference in pronunciation. 今日暖咗好多. It's much warmer today. So yeah, compared to, you're wondering how to translate that. In Cantonese, we say 比起. Make sense? 比起. And then 暖咗好多, much warmer. So a point here I'd like to make is 暖 is an adjective, but you can actually add 咗, which is like the past tense particle to adjectives as well. And so that's a feature that's unique to Cantonese, which is why I always tell my students in the past, you cannot equate English and Cantonese grammar because they're not the same. You can't say, you know, this is the past tense. It's not. I mean, in certain cases it is, but we have to be aware of the nuances. And what is happening here? Moving on, I think we just have time for maybe one more. Oh, this is unfortunate. I'll send you guys the whole PDF later if you're interested in looking at this. Or actually, I'll probably maybe post a replay so you can like go through the rest of these. I'll scroll through these slides slowly so you can do the challenges yourself later. So number 17, my cat is heavier than my baby. It's a very fat cat there, but there we go. How would you say my cat is heavier than my baby? Does anyone know the word for heavy? Hopefully everyone knows the word for heavy. 重, that's right, awesome. Where that word is actually quite tricky. It could be read in a couple of ways. It could be read as 重 when it means heavy, or 重 as in like 重要, important. So, I mean, compared to Japanese, which is like the 10 million readings per word, I feel that these irregularities or multiple readings are much fewer in Cantonese. My cat is heavier than my baby. Any tries? We have from Natalie, 我隻貓重過我個 BB. Yep, I think that's exactly what I've written there. 我隻貓重過我 BB. Okay, this is like a standard translation. Great, awesome. 我隻貓重過我個 BB. Sorry, I mistyped or probably left something out. So you guys are right. Awesome. So I think that we're kind of closing into the end of it. So and there are a couple of things I also want to say before we finish. So I'm going to scroll through the rest of these, and you guys can probably like look through the replay later and have go through these exercises yourself if you're interested in it. So we've got things like this. Actually, let me go back in the beginning, and I want to tell you guys why I did this challenge today. Let me grab the right sheet of paper. So if we go back right to the very beginning to number 1, I mean, so the theme of this workshop is difficulty. What exactly is difficulty? And through these 30 sentences, this represents all the difficulty, quote unquote, in Cantonese. In challenge number 0, we established how to read Yutping, which is an important part of Cantonese. In challenge number 1, we looked at Yuping pronunciation and romanization. Right? Dictation is often a very important part in learning a language. If you can't hear what other people are saying, you can't understand them. Listening is a multi-part process. It is not like listening and comprehending like in an instant. You have to convert words into their, for example, you need to hear the sounds, establish word boundaries, and that goes for any language. And then you want to go like, okay, this word means that, that word means that, and then you piece together comprehension. So this is actually, the first challenge that we did is actually exceptionally important in learning any language. Okay, moving on. Number 2, in this sentence, we talked a little bit about adjectives, how to translate to be, and establishing how to translate a very simple sentence. And number 3, how can you bring my laptop here? We looked at how to translate questions. compound words like 攞過嚟, right? These are words that you kind of have to learn, on a word-by-word basis. We looked at possessives, like 我部電腦, and we had a look at modifiers like 可唔可以. By the way, all of these things that I've mentioned here today are lessons that we've covered at Cantillon and the Cantonese the Cantillon grammar series. I'm not sure if you guys have read through all of them, but if you have, you should have a very good grasp of all of these things that we've talked about today. Number 4, this book isn't mine, it's hers. And here we looked at possessives. So 我嘅, that would be a possessive. Mine, negation, 唔係, and then this and that, 呢 and 嗰, that would be this and that. In sentence number 5, we looked at the airport here is really old. There we had a look at adjectives and classifiers. So 舊, 好舊, right? We looked at how we shouldn't add 係 in front of an adjective. We should add 好 instead. And we had a look at a classifier, right? 呢度嘅機場. Or is that the wrong sentence? We didn't look at classifiers here. Sorry, guys. In challenge number 6, we had a look at 有. There are a lot. You can simply say 有. Question to oneself, right? You can use 咧. That's another use of this particle. We also had a look at different words that you don't know. Maybe you didn't know the word 區, and that's where you really have to take the initiative to look things up in the dictionary. Dictionary is your best friend, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. If you don't know a word, it's perfectly fine. Just look it up. Number 7, sorry. 佢起咗身未? Here, is she awake yet? We established how to translate a very simple question. The past tense, 起咗身未? Yet, may, and then the ne ending to soften your tone. In challenge number 8, we had a look at sentence order. Now, time goes to the front of a sentence, and we had a look at things like the 緊 suffix, which is kind of like the ing, I'm doing in English. And we had a look at, once again, the time adverb goes in front of a sentence. In challenge number 9, we had a look at classifiers. You always have to include a classifier regardless of whether you have that in English or not. So a cup of wine, that's obviously a measure word if you want to call it that. But a ruler, you still need to add the measure word in Cantonese. And we talked about how using the generic measure word 個 is better than not using anything. In challenge number 10, we had a look at, in challenge number, I probably copied that wrong. In challenge number 11, we had a look at relative clauses and adverbs. This is probably the most difficult thing. This is also the most important lesson that you guys will learn when dealing with any languages. I recommend that you guys go through the relative clauses lesson at Cantillon. It has everything that we talked about today and so much more, and goes into so much more detail. This is extremely important. You will run into situations where you'll need to translate things like something, something, that, something, something. This is a relative clause. And we also talked about, let's see, adverbs. For example, really, I'm very satisfied. That's an adverb. Versus I'm just, regular satisfied. In challenge number 12, we had a look at adverbs again, 好快咁. Remember, quickly. And we had a look at linking words, 跟住就. When after what I do A and then B, that's you can use 跟住就. In challenge number 13, we looked at an adverb of time, still, and then we looked at a classifier, which is 間, 係一間便利店, right? That would be the measure word for 便利店, for the convenience store. Hopefully you guys aren't bored yet with the presentation. It's very important that we understand this, right? Because this represents the entirety of the Cantonese language. In number 14, we had a look at the frequency structure. So 習慣咗一年一次, right? 每年一次. This is something that isn't obvious to translate, so hopefully if you guys didn't know that, once a year in Cantonese is translated as 一年一次 or 每年一次. 每 means every, right? And then you can add stuff in there in between there. 每年去旅行一次. Every year, go travel once. So I travel once a year. Remember, transliteration does not work. Very important lesson. In number 15, we had a look at he has been driving for over 10 years. This specific construct is so useful. I just ask you guys to remember and just learn it by heart. But of course, as I think Natalie came up with a translation that was really good, you could circumvent it. So you can always be clever with your translations. In number 16, we had a look at yesterday we had a look at comparisons and the use of the past suffix. So we looked at 早 as the past particle, but it doesn't only apply to verbs. You can also use it in terms of adjectives as well to compare it to a previous date and time. In 17, that's the last one we had a chance to go through today. We had a look at comparisons, which is 从过, using 过 with an adjective to do comparisons. In number 18, we also, we haven't actually done that, but this sentence is used to, talk about word order, relative clause, and position words. So you guys can look over this again afterwards and see the focal point of these sentences. So the man standing behind the sofa, very similar idea to the sentence that we had before. The noodles that we had in a Chinese restaurant, the man that is standing behind the sofa in the hotel lobby is my father. So you guys can go through that later. We also will look at in number 18. Oh, I guess I can't count. We'll just go by the number. In this sentence, we're going to look at negation. And things like how to say it's not that I'm sick. And there are things like double negation as well. Hopefully you guys will get around doing that later. We also looked at, we also will look at, I guess, linking words, because, right? Very important class of words. I did a blog post, I think it's like lesson 15 or something, or 14. Hopefully you guys will have a chance to see that in the Cantillon grammar series. And in challenge number 19, I repeated that again. Apparently, I really can't count. In challenge number 20, we had a look at the double negation. It's not that I don't want to, so that's a double negation. You can translate that in Cantonese. In number 21, we're going to have a look at the very special construct to change up the order of the word to make your sentence sound a lot more natural, and the very important word 北, which is used as an auxiliary word to help you express certain class of meanings, right? So things like this are actually not that easy to translate in Cantonese, so hopefully you guys will get an idea through the slides here. In number 22, we're going to have a look at linking words, even though things like and the experiential past with 过, we have a look at, an adverb with 咁 fluently. Once again, I think that was what James pointed out earlier, how we translate adverbs into Cantonese. 好快咁 is quickly, and the same way fluently is 流利咁. I realize we're running a little bit out of time, over time, but we're probably just going to continue very quickly. I'm going to wrap this up very quickly. On 24, we're going to talk a little bit about 咁. As a continual state of something that is currently happening, like this is happening, like the ing, I am doing, he is eating, she is reading, right? In number 25, we look at how to express things in the future, which isn't actually that different than expressing things in the present. We have a look at modifiers, and we also have a look at comparisons. 會凍好多, right? So they're not actually that difficult, but these are the type of things that you should probably be aware of in Cantonese. In number 26, we look at the passive voice. So the passive voice in English, to those of you who are not very into grammar jargon, is opposed to the active voice, which is I eat dumplings. The passive voice would be the dumplings were eaten by me, right? So the dumplings were eaten by Ben. We'll have a look at how to translate those here. In number 27, topicalization. This is something I talked about in word order. I think it was like in lesson 7 in the Cantillon grammar series. I highly urge you guys to check it out. Lots of great content there. And it's translating things like that to change your focal point of emphasis. In number 28, we have a look at I think yes/no questions. Very, very simple, but slightly different than how you do them in English. And number 29, closely getting there to the finish mark, guys. We have a look at what questions, the who, what, when, where, why, and how to translate those in Cantonese. A little bit more straightforward, but another area that you probably want to be aware of. And then number 30, we have a look at polite requests and how to make questions, translate questions like these in Cantonese. All right, so that was a whirlwind of translations. So why, once again, did I talk about all of this? And we're going to wrap up in the next 5 minutes or so. We did all of this because, I recap the objective of each challenge. As we can see, difficult isn't really difficult if you have a good grasp of structures and you know how to use a dictionary, which anyone does. You input a word and look it up, and that's it. And hopefully I've shown you just through 30 sentences. This is pretty much about 80 to 90% of all the grammar structures and kinds of vocabulary that you'll need and you'll run into when translating Cantonese sentences. I mean, did you guys feel that was hard? Can we do another one of these difficulty rating things? Can everyone, from a scale of 1 to 10, how is that? Was that hard? Was it difficult? Let's see. I feel like everyone's already suffering from translation fatigue, so I'm going to save you guys the trouble of doing that. So, and I want to wrap this up by saying difficult, what we perceive as difficult, isn't really all that difficult. For example, in the beginning, I asked you guys to rate that sentence. What you guys rated as 1 to 2 in your native languages? Right, let's see. Someone says 9. So, I mean, it's, I guess there's, once again, I would suggest break down the difficulty into the respective areas. If you try lumping everything together into one big bit, it will most certainly feel very difficult to anyone. But if you break them down, that 9, I will almost guarantee will become a 3 or a 4, because nothing is ever so difficult that we can't break it down. And the things that we can't break down, we can always ask. But for 90% of the times, whether to do with, so many skills, being meshed into one session, like for example, we have reading, writing, translating, vocabulary structures. It sounds difficult, but if we break them down into like one bit and one piece at a time, it will get less difficult. Again, it's perceived difficulty. And so getting back to the original point, I asked you guys to rate those texts in Cantonese, in English, those sentences. So that will be the text that we had in Cantonese. Again, it looks difficult, but in the same way that you guys rated the sentence, I don't know, in English as a 1 or a 2 or maybe a 3 at most, I see no reason why the difficulty of this paragraph can't be also a 2 or a 3. You see, there's a lot of complexity when you look at it like that. For example, there are characters, there's so many things, there's no spaces in Cantonese and all that. But once again, if you break things down, you will be able to significantly reduce the complexity and bring that difficulty rating down so that you yourself as a learner will be able to absorb and to understand things a lot more easier than if you just look at this and say, oh, there's a big lump of thing and I don't know what to do with it, right? So this is a skill I hope that you guys will be able to learn to develop over time. And I feel that's actually at the essence of language learning, isn't it? Okay, well, if you haven't used a language for, no, I guess it really depends. If you were fluent in it before, then if you haven't used it in a long time, then it's just rusty. It's still there. But if it's just a very long hiatus, then the difficulty rating is understandable. So let me show you guys how this could be reduced in terms of difficulty. A paragraph like this, we can get rid of things like fillers and particles, and immediately we have fewer words to take care of. We can also get rid of redundant information. For example,接落嚟 things like next and let's see 其實我一般嚟講 generally speaking things like that don't actually mean anything. They're just like things you say to make your speech flow a little bit more smoothly. You can make it even shorter. We can also then classify words into their respective functions. So now we have things like, does this seem a little bit more visually easier to break down? Green represents verbs, blue represents nouns, and red represents function or grammar words. So once you have that, it becomes a little easier to kind of go through longer passages, doesn't it? For example, you can immediately think about, look at this and say, oh, I see 超級市場, I see 香港, I see 區. So 超級市場, supermarkets, 香港 is Hong Kong, 區 is an area, and 朝頭早 is morning, 好處,壞處 would be pros and cons, 人群 would be crowds. So I know that this, I immediately know by just having these keywords that I'm listening to something that's talking about supermarkets, it's talking about an area somewhere in Hong Kong, it's talking about, in the morning in supermarkets, the pros and cons, probably to do with supermarkets. You guys probably infer there are crowds in supermarkets. So even though you don't have the complete picture, you kind of can start to have establish like a baseline of understanding. And then you have things like 講下, talk about, 買嘢, to buy stuff, 住 is to live, 諗一諗 is to think, 去 is to go, 數 is to count, 返工 is to go to work, 買嘢 is to buy stuff, 睇下你點, 睇下 is to have a look, 鍾唔鍾意 is to like. So with that, just adding on verbs, you can actually piece together a lot more information. For example, 超級市場買嘢, going, buying stuff at the supermarket, 香港住嘅地方, the place where someone lives in Hong Kong, 市中心 in the city center, an area that has many supermarkets, going to the supermarket, in the morning, there are fewer people, and people go to work, and a lot of people buy stuff. You can kind of start to piece together things that make sense. It's coherent, can't you? But if you look compared to this is just a block of text, right? That's why we have to have that ability to lift these elements up and pay attention to the keywords and break them down. And when you add on to all of these function words, everything starts to make a lot of sense. So talk about 講下, I go to a supermarket, 睇超級市場買嘢, I buy stuff at the supermarket. So this is probably someone who wants to talk about, buying stuff at the supermarket. 我喺香港住嘅地方, so the place where I live in Hong Kong, city center. I don't know what 騎正 probably means for a learner who doesn't know it, but I know maybe 市中心 is city center. So the place I live in Hong Kong is somewhere in the city center. 所以好多間超級市場喺嗰區. So there are lots of supermarkets in that area, and so on and so forth. And you'll be able to make sense of what you're seeing or hearing. So in other words, my answer to difficulty is, as we've seen through the translation exercises that we've done, and as we've seen in this quick example here, you need to have the ability to break things down into smaller units, or what I like to refer to as the skill of sentence decomposition. I actually have a video that I made a long time ago on my YouTube channel. You can probably just search sentence decomposition, you'll see that. Hopefully you guys will understand what I mean by that a little bit more through that video. And so that is it. Hopefully this gives you an idea, once again, if nothing else, what appears difficult is not difficult if you are able to break things down into their respective, the smallest unit possible. Let's see. So we have a quick question now. Can I ask the difficulty of Cantillon Academy with similar translation exercise today? So in Cantillon Academy, this particular paragraph is something that I pulled directly from there. So if you're looking at reading practice, listening practice, and stuff like that, it might be something that you can consider. The exercises today I did, they're kind of like to show you guys difficulty isn't really difficulty if you can break them down. So the format of Cantillon Academy is a little bit different, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a precursor to to be able to digest, what seems like a lot of it. Because one of the things that people ask me with Cantillon Academy is like, it seems to be so much, right? 10 minutes of text, when you transcribe it, is like 4 or 5 pages or even more of Cantonese. And that seems like a lot for people. And it's like, oh, it's native speed, I can't really get it. But once again, nobody's asking you to get it like the first try. You're not native speakers. Which is why you can take your time to go through and break things down the way that we've done so very similarly. And by applying some of the techniques that we've seen and by understanding the structures that we've discussed today and hopefully more, you'll be able to work through that material. So anyway, hopefully, yeah, no worries. Hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea. And even whether you're or not you're interested in the Cantillon Academy, I hope that you guys will be able to take what you've learned today and apply it to learn in your everyday learnings. Because having that skill is the most important part of language learning. People say, language learning is about grammar and vocabulary and whatnot. Really, it's not. It's about a bunch of strategies and be able to prioritize what's important and what's not, and break down a language in a way that makes sense to you, and just work through it and commit it to memory slowly, bit by bit. The dictionaries I recommend, you can use Word. I think it's like Word.hk, words.hk. There's like a dictionary called Yudin. You can search, I don't remember the exact link. Or you can use the Chic Cantonese dictionary. That's perfectly fine. For pronunciation dictionary, there's like search up this Lexican. I think it's like 广东话字典. Google that and you'll find a link that has Lexi-Can. That's a really good website for checking out the pronunciation of certain words. And let's see. So as a final kind of, to reiterate the offer, Cantillon, you guys probably know what it is already. I'm not going to read this out loud. You've probably seen this more times than I can count. And there's some bonuses that come with the program. And so that closes tomorrow. So if you guys are interested, do check it out, and do post a link here once again, cantillon.podia.com, Cantillon Academy. And don't worry if you guys aren't interested, that's perfectly fine. I hope you guys still got something useful out of today's sessions. Do we have any more questions about anything that we discussed today, or any questions that you guys have that you want to ask me? Let's see, from James, if you like phone dictionaries, I've used Pleco. They have Cantonese. Yeah, I think Pleco's pretty good as well. And of course, if you don't know something, you can always feel free to ask a native speaker. I think that's the best dictionary ever, right? Ask a bilingual native speaker, preferably. So, let's see, from Andrew. By the way, I noticed that your Quizlet decks don't go from English to Yuping, just from characters to Yuping. Yeah, that's right. That decision was made deliberately. I think it's, at that point, I just don't feel that English to Yuping is as useful. So I didn't include that. That was a decision I made. I mean, if a lot of people asked for them, I could make them. It's not a huge deal. But at an intermediate level of learning, I really strongly feel that we should try and get used to characters a little bit more. So let's see. James says, if I use Yuping in front of native speakers, they think I'm an alien or something. I know, I get the feeling. Seriously, when I started I actually started learning Yuping only like 2 years ago. I had no idea how to write anything in Yuping. And I always get certain ones wrong. You know how there's the ones like Sung, O-E-N-G, and I always forget it's like O-E or it's like E-O and all that kind of good stuff. So I had a bit of trouble with that. Let's see. Andrew says, I started learning characters a while back, got up to a decent number, but I decided I should focus on listening and spoken Cantonese first. Yeah, I think that's a good strategy. It's just that after a certain while, a lot of materials become inaccessible to you if you don't learn how to read characters. So, it's just a matter of time, where you are at the learning journey. But I would definitely not, try to not avoid them. That's right. Sorry, many negatives in my mind that hurts my brain. Yep. So do you have any more comments or questions about what we talked about today? I know we're grossly over time. I have to apologize for that. I thought that the translation portion would go a lot quicker, but oh well. What's the opposite of a pessimist? An optimist. There we go. Sorry, I'm forgetting English words now. All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions online, I am probably going to close this workshop. I think I'll post a replay, so look out for that. And yeah, thank you so much once again, guys. We don't have a lot of participants today. I think I've like blasted out so many emails that this webinar, this workshop email got lost in the series. But a couple more comments. So Mabel says, I think learning the base characters is easy. It's combining the characters. That is true. Yeah, individual characters are not the same thing as words. So slightly different thing. Workshop was great. Thanks from Natalie. Thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have learned a thing or two. Thanks, Maggio, from Andrew. You're very welcome, Andrew. All right, guys, have a lovely weekend, and I hope to see you guys sometime soon. Send me an email sometime. I always reply. Sometimes, if I'm too busy, I might reply a little bit later, but I read everything that you guys write. All right, take care, guys. Have fun with Cantonese and with translations. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.